Number 13, simplify sine x times tangent x minus secant x plus cosine x. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the second strategy. Now, if you remember, the first strategy was if you have a ratio to change it to x, y's, and h's, which I don't have here. So you either use strategy 2, which is change the sines and cosines, or strategy 3, which is Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to use, or Pythagorean identities, rather. I'm going to try to convert this first to sines and cosines. So I have here sine x times, tangent is the same thing as sine x over cos x. And then I minus secant is the same thing as 1 over cosine. It's the reciprocal of cosine. Plus cosine. I can notice real quickly that these two have a common denominator. And so I can combine those. Nothing there cancels out. But I could say these two can combine together with the common denominator, which is cosine. And sine times sine is sine squared x. And I have the minus 1. Plus I have a cosine out here. Now, I'm going to go over this. I have a squared and a 1. A lot of times it's Pythagorean identity. It's sine squared minus 1. Let's look at our identities. Right now, I have sine squared, and notice if I move the 1 over, it would be sine squared minus 1. But the cosine would go over here. So notice what's happening. The 1's over here, and it's negative when it switches. The cosine gets moved over, so it's positive. Or excuse me, it's positive over here, so it would be negative as well. So sine squared minus 1 is equal to negative cosine. I'm going to write that over here. Sine squared x minus 1 is equal to negative cosine squared x. So that's what I'm going to substitute there. This right here is going to get substituted from that. And so I'll rewrite it over here. I have negative cosine squared x over cosine x plus this cosine x over here. Now let's do a little algebra. I have cosine squared x being divided by cosine x. One of these cosines cancels with that one up there. So I now have negative cos x plus cosine x. What's a negative cosine plus a positive cosine equal? 0. That would be my answer here. If you're wondering the steps I did, the first step here, changing tangent to sine over cosine, you would call that reciprocal. Now, I'm sorry, this is quotient. The secant becoming 1 over cosine, this is reciprocal. Identities, these are. And here, I did Pythagorean. I'm just going to say Pythag. That's Pythagorean. And then over here, I simplified. Alex would call this algebra if you were doing Alex work. So I did some algebra. And then again, I did more algebra here.